Just want to take you through a quick overview with regard to the broadcasting landscape in this country. Most probably, I don't know if I have to use my notes to move a bit faster. I've been told about this new technology. I hope it works. Now, we started broadcasting landscape in the liberalized environment in 1989. During this period, the government used to, it gave broadcasting permits, and CCK gave the frequencies that were available to those who had been given permits. But because there was no legal and regulatory framework in place, it depended on who is who. Perhaps that might explain the reasons why we still have not settled very properly with regard to regulation on media in this country. In the 90s, quite a number of private entities entered into the broadcasting industry, and more especially the FM stations, but still under that same framework. In 2000 and well, in terms of our management of the spectrum, the broadcasting spectrum is part of the spectrum that is used for wireless communication in the whole world. Spectrum is normally managed centrally from the ITU. That is where it is allotted and planned. And each country is therefore, based on the framework that has been developed by the ITU, is supposed now to plan and optimize the utilization of the frequency spectrum in their respective countries. In Kenya, CCK is the body that was given the mandate by the government on behalf of the Kenyan public to manage the frequency spectrum. And in terms of our managing, let me say that we do normally plan for this spectrum because there are various services that use this spectrum, including broadcasting. So broadcasting just use a very tiny bit of the spectrum that is available for use for wireless communication. And I will just try to confine myself there. So we do the planning, we do the monitoring, and we do the licensing. So in this particular case, anybody who uses the frequency spectrum in this country must pass through the CCK to be able to be allocated that frequency. We give them the right powers to use, the right frequency spectrum to be able to use for their services, and we also try to monitor radiations that emanate from there, because if not properly managed, they also have the risk of, towards the safety of those who use them. So in most cases, it is our responsibility to that, and we ensure that all the other services are not interfered with as a result of the proper utilization of this spectrum. So in terms of broadcasting, we used to give, the ministry used to give permits, and you see permits were just given anyhow, depending, as I said, there was no a proper regulatory framework. So it depended on who was in that ministry that you went to look for the permit, and probably how well you talked. I think I can't mince my words on that. Because then, from there, they used to come to CCK for allocation of spectrum. That time, there were so many permits float and very little spectrum because it is limited, and it was very difficult for us to satisfy the Kenyan market. But it so happened that because of that shadow, quite a number of things never happened properly, and probably it has moved our broadcasting our broadcasting sector into some kind of confusion that we might find ourselves in today. Now, the challenges that I've just tried to talk about as a result of having two bodies without any proper legislative framework in place regulating broadcasting services ended up putting us into this quagmire, because the ministry didn't know how much of the spectrum is available to CCK. CCK didn't know how many of those permits have been issued out, and then on what basis. Because this is a public resource, it is supposed to be equitably distributed and within a procedure and a framework that is understandable by everybody. And that made it very difficult. And as a result also, the ministry did not have the capacity to monitor the content. I think at that time, the guys who had entrenched themselves in the broadcasting field wanted to be free to air anything. And because there was no framework, actually it gave them that lacuna to be able to do that. And this explains today the reason why it is only Kenya that the broadcasting sector is not properly regulated. Otherwise, go anywhere, even the most developed democracies, as much as the media is one of the most important estate to be able to propagate our democracy, there are limits to which it can be allowed to do that. In fact, first of all, even without them stumbling on themselves, they can also stumble on the consumers. And this one it was noticed a long time ago. It is not just in Kenya we are attempting to do that. It was noticed many years back. And the only place where media has thrived is where the proper regulatory framework is in place. And regulatory framework does not mean interference with the autonomy of the media houses, no. It is just that what is going to get out of that should respect all the boundaries of the people that listen and watch the content and programs that come from there. You can imagine in your house, you are not the only one. You have the young ones there, you have the elder ones there, and all of them need to be respected. You cannot, afford to watch programs which you yourself find so, I don't know which language I can use, but so unpalatable. With your own children or your own parents and so on and so forth. That is why properly, organized media is supposed to respect those boundaries. And in that particular case, then Kenyans can enjoy the beauty, the information, the education, and the entertainment that can come with the media houses. And that doesn't mean they are being coerced. I think we need to see that very clearly. There is those of you who are journalists, you know very well about the editorial independence of a media house and editorial management of the media house. Any media house whose editorial management or independence is tempered with, that is a media house that is being coerced. Otherwise, you are free under any regulatory framework to be able to provide your services for as long as they are within certain guidelines that respect the norms, values, and virtues of the members of our society. Now, that is in 2009, therefore, after the government realizing that there is a lacuna in the regulatory of the broadcasting services, they introduced the Kenya Information and Communications Act Cap 411A. That is after an amendment was given to the Kenya Information and Communications Act 1998. Now, this empowered CCK now to be able to provide licenses and regulate the broadcasting services on behalf of the Kenyans. But I am not ashamed to say this, that around that time, when you leave a service to progress in an environment that is limitless, for you to bring them back and tell them, look here, I want you to be confined in this, becomes very difficult. That is the quagmire we are in today, because those who are already entrenched wanted to remain that way. They wanted status quo to remain. Those who wanted to come onto the platform will also want at least the regulations to be there so that they can also be guided to compete with others. And as a result of this, for more than 3 years right now, we are just in a seesaw kind of situation which has not helped us to progress this industry very well. But as you may see later, this is going to be counterproductive to even the players themselves in this sector, because technology is driving them away from the original traditional thinking to think anew. And they are not going to think anew if we are not going to allow the regulator to be able to organize and manage resources and the technologies that is going to help you provide the services under the new environment. So CAP 411 had these provisions for broadcasting, and these were the provisions that CCK were given under the new, this framework to be able to license and regulate the broadcasting services. Of course, it's still under contention, but it's quite good that we bring this to the knowledge of Kenyans so that they know exactly what is happening. Because if we fail to do that and things go wrong, one day you will say there were guys there at CCK who really were sleeping on the job and they didn't know what they are supposed to do. So I hope you will excuse us on this, but this is the position that we are supposed to be, I mean, we were given the opportunity to do, but we are now not doing it because we have a series of court cases preventing us from going ahead to do this. And I think I have just tried to explain the importance, I mean the reasons. Now when you look at an aspect like that one of description of the program code, the program code, CCK has already done this, and it was all about guidelines. Guidelines that are already journalistic in nature. In fact, it is just the code of ethics of a journalist. I'm not a journalist myself, I'm an engineer, but I was forced to read a little bit about it. So even in terms of how you are going to present your information, what kind of information, what you are supposed to show and what you are not supposed to show, which scenes you are supposed to let the public know, which one can you hide under the bed, that is all about what the program code was all about. And this program code has not been brought to the fore for Kenyans to discuss it because we have also been restricted by the court cases. We have also developed methods of handling complaints, which are supposed to start from the broadcasters themselves. You are supposed to be first call of, the point of the first call for anybody who is complaining about the information that you have aired. And for that reason, if you are not able to resolve the matter, that is the only time it can be escalated to CCK or otherwise, or even end up in courts of law. And this is what we are saying. If we properly implemented them today, we should be having a thriving broadcasting sector that we will also be able to overcome the challenges of technology we are meeting today. Now, I've talked much about this, although in passing, not systematically, but as you can see, we are meant to provide guidelines of how we can transparently license new broadcasters, how we can manage the old ones, those who want to expand their networks, if the resources are available. We have developed regulations of the sector in order to guide the sector so that each and everybody in this particular sector can be able to enjoy the resources that are there. We have also, as I said, through the code, set some certain minimum standards of the content, and all these are awaiting Kenyans to discuss once we are able to get out of the hooks of being stopped by other institutions from, legal institutions from continuing with the mandate that we have been given. This is just the licensing under the new framework which we have in place. By the way, I can be able to tell you that right now we have received over 96 applications out of 101 broadcasters who are currently broadcasting in this country. So you can imagine there are just a few who are holding us behind. Sorry to say, Mr. Waithaka here has already applied, save for the services he's providing as a public broadcaster. I think for him, he has two hats. He has one hat as a private broadcaster, another one as a public broadcaster. As a public broadcaster, he's expected to have what we call a charter which should come very soon, under which he can be able to provide the public broadcasting services. But for the commercial broadcasting services, he has already applied to us for a license. But we shall issue that license once once we are through the issue with the. I will not talk much about the program code because I explained something about it, and as you can see, generally these are the code of ethics that you expect a journalist to have. So it is not outside any journalistic ethics. Probably if you'd like a little about these slides, maybe we can give you to go through it, but just for the sake of saving time, I would not want to go through everything. The complaints handling procedures. I think I have told you we require that broadcasters be the first call, point of call for any complaints that emerge from from their consumers regarding the services that they are providing. And later on, if they are escalated because they can't agree, then that is the time the Commission is supposed to come into in trying to resolve that. It is not that we are there as a watchdog of certain political systems so that, we are being told tomorrow, go and close down so and so. No. We also want to regulate this industry very professionally so that at least your license that we shall give you is going to be the contract that you will have with us, and in that contract there will be conditions. Each one of you, both yourselves and the CCK, should be able to conform to in order to have a good regulatory framework for broadcasters. Now we have, in order to be able to manage complaints from the consumers which have been escalated to the to CCK that maybe the broadcasters have not been able to solve, the government created what we call the Broadcasting Content Advisory Council. This council is in place, but it's not functional. It's not functional because we have not sent complaints there because of the court orders. Otherwise, they have prepared themselves well to be able to handle the industry. They are guys of renowned positions in terms of broadcasting journalism, and there are people that most of you have been mentored by them, and we are having about 7 of them, six of them. But once everything is through, we would want to bring them to the public so that you can be able to engage with them and know what kind of people we will be dealing with, just in case you have any problems with regard to this sector. Then digital migration. This is one of the technologies I told you is going to sweep us under the carpet if we are not going to embrace it. One of the things that you may need to know is that technology now has made telecommunications, what used to be standalone, and broadcasting to converge. So today you can have one device, then you can speak through it, you can watch television, you can also be able to listen to radio, and so on and so forth. So these kind of services that were independently being provided with the traditional technologies are now being provided by just one converged technology. So in that case, I want to make it crystal clear that it can never happen again that broadcasting will be done independently from telecommunications. You have been forced by technology to accept that that one will be just under one framework. You will have the same infrastructure doing that. Like, for example, now go to the internet. I am sure if Radio Umoja or whatever is here, or KTN is here, or when you go to the YouTube, you will be able to see the same KTN there, isn't it? But the internet is not traditionally part of the broadcasting infrastructure. Now, if you go elsewhere, we are now getting a new technology called IPTV, Internet Protocol TV, that is going to save on the spectrum but give very high quality programs or images out of it, which is being embraced very soon. I think in Kenya we should be having one at a test bed at Multimedia University being developed to be able to see how commercially viable IPTV is going to be in Kenya. Now, all those technologies are moving you away from traditional broadcasting. That is why when people are clamoring for frequencies, some of them can even go and take frequencies and put in their pockets. That frequency is going to be useless. Okay? It is going to be useless because the mode of doing broadcasting is changing. In the next 10 years, you will see completely a different structure of how you can be able to do that business. So why therefore not CCK let the Kenyans know that this is the mode we are going. I think that is the more reason why we are here. Since 2006, after what we call the Regional Radio Conference in Geneva, every country has been moving towards migrating from analog to digital broadcasting. We have said this several times about the advantages and so on and so forth. I wouldn't need to go into those details because I think those details have been made available through so many forums. But for us, we started first of all with the technology which the African countries as part of Region 1 agreed to embrace. It was called a DVB-T technology. That is digital video broadcasting terrestrial. So we had the first technology generation of that technology which was called DVB-T. And that is the very first one we started with. But we realized that the DVB-T2 technology, which was now the second generation, was ready, and we failed because we had not gone very far. Should we continue rolling out on DVB-T